Hi, I'm Callahan,
I'm Danielle.
I'm Alyssa.
and we are presenting our final capstone project entitled Life in the Forest. It is a biology and art lesson based off of forests.
So basically how our lesson is designed is for freshmen, early high school students. The reason we decided to go with these guys is because they have formal operations and that's the stage that they're in. And so they have a really good development of their critical thinking skills and can process data correctly.
For our learning theories, we picked constructivism and cognitivism. If I said that right. Because for constructivism, we wanted students to be actively learning and utilizing what they learned from the previous lessons. And that is also why we picked the cognitivism, because we want to also make sure that we are basing their learning off of the lesson previously taught to them.
The flow of learning is going to start with they will get the base for pretty much all of the rest of their learning in their biology class in the first lesson entitled Parts of the Forest. They're going to learn biology of plants and the different parts of plants. And then they're going to move to their art class, and in their art class, they are going to create paint from parts of plants and flowers, and then they're going to create a new plant off of the parts that they learned that all plants have. And then they're going to go back to their biology class and learn about pollinators and different types of pollinators and their habitats. And then from there, go back to their art class and where they're going to design a pollinator domicile or pollinator home. And then they're going to create a model from whatever their design is as a group, choose the best one, and then create that design and place it in the forest.
For the first activity or lesson, students will be learning the different parts of a flower. For this lesson, we have 3 objectives. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to identify the different parts of a flower. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to describe what each part of the flower does. And the third objective is at the end of the lesson, students will be able to differentiate a dicot flower from a monocot flower. So beginning the activity, students will be talking about what they know and what they want to know about flowers. Then they will get a flower puzzle. Each group, depending on the teacher, the groups can vary in size, will get a picture of a flower, an envelope with the parts of a flower, and an envelope with the definition of those parts. The groups will then try to figure out which parts of a flower they are and the definitions that go with them. After that, it'll be a group discussion and the teacher will explain to the students the different parts and the definitions. Then the teacher will talk about the difference between monocot and dicot flowers. After that activity, the students will then go to the forest and be able to pick 2 flowers. The different groups will pick 2 flowers, a monocot and a dicot flower. Then they'll go back to the classroom and be able to look at the flowers through a microscope and color and draw a picture of what they see. And then at the end of this activity, they will go over the puzzle again, and that's how they will be graded, making sure that they understand the flowers and definitions of the parts.
Right, this art activity will start with the students going into the forest and choosing plants to create their paint with. They'll want lots of plants with lots of different colors, at least 5 of them. Students, when they get back to the classroom, will pull the stems off of the petals off the stems and separate them into different colors. For each different color, they're going to heat up 1 cup of water and make sure it's hot but not boiling. In a blender, they're going to process the flowers with a teaspoon or 2 of water to leach out the color. After blending them, they're going to put them in separate containers, at least 1/4 to 1/2 cup for each color. Then they're going to pour some of the hot water into the container and let it sit for several hours and to continue to leach out the color. After that, they're going to drain each of the colors through a cheesecloth, and so what you're left with is a watercolor-like substance, and then the students are going to create their new plants.
So for the biology lesson with pollinators, we're going to be talking about the different pollinators and how they interact with the forest. The learning objectives are for the students to be able to identify the different pollinators and compare the differences between them while explaining their importance within the forest situation. So how the lesson begins is just a little bit of background. The students need to remember certain things they learned from their first biology lesson with the plants, and then they can work around the difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination. And so after they explain those simple definitions, you'll move into the more pollinator design topics. So you'll start with a couple of flashcards, and each flashcard will be basically a matching game. They'll have a picture, and then on the other flashcard they'll have a description. And so the students will be given a few minutes to figure out if they can match them, and at the end of the goal is by the end of the lesson they will be able to do these within 1 minute. For the second half of the lesson, students are going to be going out into the actual forest. So they'll be given a journaling notebook where they will take tally marks of each pollinator that they see within the forest interacting with flowers and other plants. They'll have 20 minutes to do this, and they can work as individuals or groups. It's basically up to them. So once you get the students back together in a group, you'll discuss your findings and create a bar graph of all of the class data. And from that, the students will complete a short quiz based on their personal findings as well as the class graph. Other than that, you'll just discuss the overall purpose of pollinators and move on to the next lesson.
The last lesson that the students are going to do is, again, another art lesson. And the objectives of this art lesson are, at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to categorize different types of pollinator domiciles or pollinator homes. And they will be able to differentiate the kinds of habitats pollinators live in. To do this activity, students will use their knowledge that they previously gained about pollinators and their habitats to create a pollinator domicile out of any medium of their choice. And then after they design their pollinator domicile, they'll create a model of it. And then as across all of the art classes in the school, they will vote on the best one. The one that's chosen as the best one, the class will create as a group and place it in the forest that they have been doing their lessons in. Once again, I'm Callahan, this is Danielle, and this is Alyssa. Thank you for joining us for Life in the Forest.
Ha! That's all, folks!